Hey, what's up? This is Scott with Level Up Tutorials, and in this video we're going to be showing you the settings.json file, which allows you to store public and private variables that you can use in your site, maybe for storing API keys, typically things that you wouldn't want to commit to your repo or anything like that. In the end of this video, we're going to show you a public setting to add Google Analytics to your project. So let's get going on that right now. Okay, so in this video, we're going to talk about something that's really super important to building advanced Meteor applications, and that's the settings.json file. Now, the settings.json file is a file that you can make in the root level of your project that allows for totally private variables that you can use on your server. Now, this is something, if you're using version control, that you will not want to commit to your repo, because this is typically where you're storing private information, things like private keys, basically values that you don't want other people to have, many of which you don't want to even be available on the front end of your application. So to get started, let's go ahead and create a settings.variable file in the root of our project. So new file settings.json. Now, we don't have to do anything special in this file, just make an object. And what we can do now is define a property. So we can just say, I'm just going to call this hello, and the value is going to be I'm private. Okay, so this is absolutely stupid, but it doesn't matter because this is just to illustrate the settings file. So we have settings.json, we have the hello item inside of it. However, we want to now access this item, but to do that we need to tell our Meteor application to use settings.json. So I'm going to hit Control C to cancel, and I'm going to do Meteor. However, this time I'm going to pass in a flag here. And this is -- settings with two T's, settings, okay. And now we're going to pass it the settings.json file. Like so. We can hit enter, and now it's going to start up our application while using that settings file. Now you might be wondering, well, how do I deploy an app like this? Well, we're going to get into that once we talk about deploying to a VPS and using things like Meteor deploy will actually take care of the settings file for you. So, okay, we have Meteor settings.json. Now, from our application, let's go ahead and check it out. In our server code, let's just go to init and let's console log something. We're going to just say meteor.settings. So the settings.json file allows for this meteor.settings to be accessed, and we can say meteor.settings. And then we're going to access from here, it's just our object. So from here we can say hello. Okay, so now when we save this, let's head to our command line. When our application starts up, once it's initialized, it should console log I'm private. And we see that right here. That's really super cool. And let's verify that this is not, in fact, accessible on the front end of our website. So in our client code, just recipes.js, not the collection recipes.js, but this one where we had our subscribe statement, I'm also going to put a console log in here. Okay, and let's open up our inspect element, our console, and you can see we're getting an undefined error. And it's basically saying, hey, there's no such thing as meteor.settings, so don't even try it. But that doesn't mean you can't define settings in your meteor.settings to use on your public. Sometimes you have public and private keys, right? And you need public keys to be available on the client part of your site. I mean, for instance, think about a Google Analytics code would be a great thing to store in your settings, and even some packages are going to require you to store that in your settings. So let's go ahead and talk about Google Analytics here. Let's delete the statement really quickly. Let's also delete the one in our init.js. Okay, and let's head to our settings.json. So we had this hello, I'm private, but now we need a public variable. So we can create an actual public item here. So we can say public : and then have our item here. And now the Google Analytics package that we're going to be using uses something called GA to namespace it, and we have GA. Inside of the GA object, we're going to have account. Now, account is where you're going to pass in the property value. So it's UA hyphen and then a bunch of numbers, hyphen and then a number, right? So this is going to be our Google Analytics account number. I'm not going to post mine in here even though it's publicly accessible. So it's here in this public GA account. So let's go ahead and try to add that now to our front end code and see that console logged. We should be able to see this UA console logged. I'm just going to reinstate this Meteor.settings. However, now we can access the public area of our settings just by saying public dot, and then now we can drill into our object like normal, GA and then account. Okay, so now I'm back on our page. We get a refresh going, and you can see we are able to now successfully console log our public variable. So without putting a variable, you won't ever be able to access it publicly. Now, it's a good practice to not just throw the rest of your variables in here. Like, I mean, we could have a comma and we could have the hello back in here and use this privately. But it makes more sense, and it's just a little bit nicer to have private. Now, this is, like I said, it's not required, but it's definitely good practice. Now, from here, we could have all sorts of objects here. Maybe you have Stripe, and you have a API private key or something like that. So in here, this is where you're going to store your server-only variables. Now, we don't have any server-only settings in this site right now, but we do have this Google Analytics public, and now we want to make sure we want to add Google Analytics to our routes. What's great about something like Meteor is that you don't have to have each route be a new page load, right? Sometimes a route is going to change some of the display, and you don't necessarily think of it as a page load. So routing gives you full control over what is registered as a page load. However, let's first add the analytics package to our site. So the package that we're going to be using for Google Analytics is going to be data riot and then G analytics. Okay, make sure everything's spelling correctly. Make sure the package is being downloaded and installed. Here we go. Now it's rebuilding. So now that we have our Google Analytics property value in our settings, we have our package in here, we're now able to start defining what's a page view. And we can do that simply in our routes. So come to lib routes, and this is where it's super easy. Let's just come to our action code. And inside of our action, before the page is rendered, or maybe, even after the page is rendered. And so inside of our action code, we can say G analytics.page view, all in lower. G analytics is sort of in camel case. It's not. It's the G is capitalized, the A is capitalized as well. And then we can put that on our recipe book as well. Now, when you ever head to any sort of page, it's going to register that as a page view in Google Analytics. So there are ways to define your page view in your controller and things like that, but honestly, this Google Analytics page view in your route is really what I found to be the easiest way to just drop in whenever you want to have a page view. Okay, so you now know that you can have public and private settings in your settings.json file, and we now have Google Analytics added to our site, which are two things we needed to accomplish. So great, in the next video, we're going to sort of build out the navigation for this site, and we're going to drop in our CSS and see some tremendous changes in the way this page is looking. So as always, this is Scott with Level Up Tutorials. If you have any questions or comments, leave a comment in the video or hit me up at Twitter or Facebook at Level Up Tutorials. I love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.